What do you think is the ideal relationship between the superintendent and the school board, and who do you think should be the spokesperson for the district when policy is being developed?
I think there'll always be, and probably should be, a little bit of tension between a superintendent and the school board, and not tension in a negative way. We had a training class about 3 years ago or so that gave us 20 topics and said, okay, should this be a superintendent's decision? Should this be a board decision? Getting at the idea of, are you micromanaging or not? And there are various topics of what is, what should the schedule be, calling off a day of class because of weather, all these different things. And we went through and rated them. The superintendent was in the group with the board. And at the end, the facilitator said, who was the next administrator, said, I think at any given time, any one of these issues could be something where the board should weigh in, or the superintendent should have total say. So essentially, there was never an absolute line between boards over here, superintendents over here. And that's why there's that kind of tension back and forth of when should the board have input, when is it most important for the superintendent to be the leader. I think on true policy, I think the superintendent is our lead person, but obviously all the board needs to end up having say, because that's what we do, is we establish policies, and we need to make sure the policies meet the needs of all the students, and that's why we have to work with the superintendent. He gives us options. We look at options and say what is a reasonable option, and work forward. So again, it kind of ultimately, when a policy is done, the superintendent is again the person that's going to have to implement that policy. But we need to end up having the board needs to be heavily involved in that.
In the past, the district administrators and board members have relied heavily on legal advice from the Iowa Association of School Boards, which, as I'm sure you know, has come under fire recently. And what do you think the future relationship should be between the district and the IASB?
Well, I think it really depends a lot on how the IASB moves forward. If they are, in all my discussions, when I've heard them talk at a couple meetings recently, they are making a significant effort to be very focused, to really go back to their core mission, which is representing school boards and helping school boards from day one as a board member, of knowing where they can get information, get training, helping school boards move forward, having meetings where we can go to training, having the annual conference where I've heard some wonderful speakers and gotten some good ideas of sharing, understanding what other school boards are doing, what other districts have done to try to improve. And not the least issue is providing some effort at the State House to provide another voice. I would say is there are. I heard the head of the school administrators of Iowa talk about kind of the three-legged stool that needs to be used in the legislature and working with legislators, and that is the teachers union, having the education association, the administrators of Iowa, and the school board association, so that we have this opportunity to have kind of a true discussion of what is each group's perspective on any legislation, and try to help the legislators hear different perspectives so they can move forward. So I think they're an important group. as I said, I think a lot of where they are now is a lot of people are looking at them and saying, you've done some things that are pretty embarrassing. Can you improve yourselves? If they can't, then I think we have to talk about what other options are.
What do you think is the best plan for Ames Elementary Schools?
Well, I think that we need to. I want to stay away from 5 versus 6 and so on, because to me that never told me anything. I want to talk about how we educate students. I alluded to it earlier on, as we talk about students that are struggling, that whenever we hear about schools that have improved themselves, usually as they've become more focused, they've tended to get smaller. They've tried to say, we want to work hard at working with a group of students and working together. Our schools have, our system has done well with the 2 and 3 section schools that we have historically used. And I feel that's a good plan. I'm very concerned about moving to a 4 section schools, because if we do, we have to fund them appropriately, and then I don't think we really save money. So that kind of works me into saying that I don't think that we can work under a 5-school system unless we are willing to accept that some children in some area of town are going to be bused to another area of town. We're going to go to bigger 4-section schools of 500 plus children. So that really drives me into saying I think 6 schools gives us a much better geographic distribution of meeting the needs on east and north of Squaw Creek, which is essentially half of the elementary students, and then the students south of in the south part of town, students in the west part of town. I think that gives us the best long-term distribution of schools and can keep the sizes within a range that I'm comfortable with.